Imagine for a second that you know a famous play. I mean, you know it by heart. Every character, every scene, the big twists, all of it. You feel like you have the complete story start to finish, but then you find a manuscript tucked away in some archive, and it turns out to be the script for the prequel. And suddenly, everything you thought you knew about that opening scene, the motivations, the characters' backstories, it all just shifts. You realize the story started way before the curtain went up. That is precisely the feeling we're exploring today. We're looking at a text called the Book of the High Place. It comes from the Nemenhah record. And if you're familiar with the traditional creation story, especially from an LDS perspective, this is a very different starting point. It's not just a different version, it's the context that supposedly comes before the context we all know. It starts eons earlier, it's the before the before. So, my mission in this presentation is to walk through the events in this text that lead up to the formation of our earth. And honestly, the whole premise is radical. We're not just talking about minor changes. We have a cosmic deep, a very prominent heavenly mother, and this is the part that really threw me for a loop. A whole other race of beings called the Holy Ghost people. It completely reframes the cosmological setup. It suggests the plan of salvation wasn't this static thing, but something that actually evolved through discovery and even trial and error. Let's get into the weeds. We have to start with the main characters. The text introduces us to Elohim, but the definition here is probably not what most of you are used to. Usually, Elohim is just another name for God the Father, but this text is very specific. It defines Elohim as a plural, and get this, a feminine denominator that breaks it down. You have Pa Eloah, which means mother in heaven, and She Eloah, which is father in heaven. So when the text uses Elohim, it's talking about them together in their united state. It's basically a title for their sealing power. So Elohim isn't one person, it's the partnership, the union. And the story opens with this partnership looking out over the edge of the deep, and they're not quite on the same page yet. They're looking into this vast, dark, empty space, and they see two completely different things. It makes them feel like distinct individuals. The mother looks out and she is, well, she's a visionary. She sees this darkness and says, I see space there, space to fill, space to do a great thing. She sees total potential. She wants to fill it with light and wonder and expansion. And the father is being the pragmatist here. He basically says, look, there's no one out there to see us. Why do more? Let's just stick to the work we already know. He's hesitant, but the mother insists. I love her line. She says, I am not no one. I would see what I would see. She really pushes them forward. And this leads to their first big creative problem. They decide to try creating separately, which you can guess probably doesn't go well. It's a necessary failure. The text says the father has the power to organize matter. He can take chaos and form it into stars, planets, big structures. The matter obeys him. So he's the architect building the house. But the mother's power is different. She's described as a wellspring of life. She can give matter self-knowledge, perception. What happens when they work apart? It's a complete mess. The father creates these perfectly organized worlds, but they're lifeless, just dead rocks spinning in space, sterile. And the mother creates living, perceiving matter, but it has no form, no organization. It's just confused life floating in chaos. So one has the container, the other has the contents, but they're not together. They realize that organization alone brings no real order, and life alone brings no real order. They have to combine their powers. And that leads to what the book calls the first covenant. It's their agreement to share their work. He consecrates the organized matter, and she grants it perception. And that union is what finally allows them to create living, perceiving beings. They literally can't do it without each other. Okay, so they figured out the mechanics. They start having spirit children, populating the universe. But then we hit another problem. The text calls it the everlasting covenant, but it sounds like the original version had a major bug, or at least a severe limitation. The system, this old everlasting covenant, was that those children would go off and create their own worlds to progress. But there was a rule. Once the children started creating, the parents, Elohim, couldn't go visit them. You'd think they should be guiding them, but it was a safety issue. The text says the parents' glory is so powerful it would actually destroy the unexalted matter the children were using. So they were basically cosmic empty nesters who could never visit the kids without burning down the house. And it was lonely. They had to watch from light years away as their children struggled. That's heartbreaking. And it's while they're watching from this distance that they notice something odd. They see a shadowy figure moving among their children on these worlds. What was it doing? Benevolent things. The text gives examples like whispering to a man to move his hut right before a flood, or causing two armies to just stop fighting. Someone was helping them, but it wasn't one of their creations. They go down to confront this being very carefully, and they ask, "What are you?" The figure's reply is, "I am Holy Ghost." Now, wait, hold on. In most theology, the Holy Ghost is a specific person, a member of the Godhead, but here it's a species. This is one of the biggest departures in the text. He explains that he comes from a race of Holy Ghost people who have always existed. They are non corporeal, spirit only. And because they don't have bodies like the parents, they can get close to unexalted matter without destroying it. They can influence, they can whisper. This just blows the lid off the universe for the parents. But the Holy Ghost doesn't just introduce himself. He gives them a performance review of their entire system. He critiques them. He challenges their law of restoration. He says their method of exaltation, this incredibly long, lonely process, causes immense suffering. He calls them singularities of discord. There's a quote in the text that just floored me. The Holy Ghost says to them, "I have never encountered an end so good, require means so bad." It's a devastating line. He's saying, look, your goal is noble. You create gods. But the collateral damage across the cosmos is staggering. He's basically telling them their covenant is inefficient and frankly cruel. And to their credit, the parents listen. They don't just get defensive, they're responsive. And this leads to an experiment. The Holy Ghost proposes a test. He says, "Let me whisper to your children. Let me see if I can help them learn faster without you accidentally vaporizing them." And in return, the Father creates a special world for the Holy Ghost people so they can experience physicality. They enter the bodies of animals and other beings on this world. And that's when this metaphysical thing called imprinting happens. Let me explain imprinting. It's like a data uplink. When a Holy Ghost person has a physical experience, they gain that knowledge. But because the matter belongs to the Creator also feels and learns what they do. So it's a two-way street, a shared download of consciousness. And that's the aha moment. They realize experience doesn't have to be earned slowly through eons of suffering. It can be shared. And that's what lets them formulate a new covenant. They can stop all that cosmic suffering. They realize they can have one chosen one, someone already far along in their progression, and that person can take on the aggregated experience of all creations through the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost becomes the medium, the conduit to imprint all that experience, all that suffering onto one individual. And that is the technical definition of the atonement in this text. It's fascinating. It treats the atonement not just as a spiritual concept, but as a solution to a cosmic engineering problem. It solves for suffering and inefficiency. It's a hack, in a way to introduce mercy into a very rigid system. So they have this new plan. Now they have to get everyone on board, which brings us to the Great Council, a scene that's familiar, but with some really unique details here. They gather everyone, all the spirit children of the parents, and all the Holy Ghost people. And we learn the Holy Ghost people themselves split into three different groups over this new plan. First, you have those who are content being spirits. They stay as they are, continuing their work. The second group wants to experience physical life, but they don't want the responsibility of becoming gods. They want the experience, but not the final exam. The text says they become the spirits in nature, in animals. And then there's the third group, the ones who go all in. They want to be adopted, they want to become children of the parents and seek full exaltation. So the father presents this new plan to his own children. He says, we can shorten the path to just one lifetime, but you have to consecrate all your past experience to a chosen one. And that's when Lucifer objects. And his argument here is very specific. It's not just about glory, it's about the how. He sees this imprinting mechanism and he sees a shortcut. He basically says, if the Holy Ghost can just imprint knowledge, then imprint the glory onto me right now. Why do I have to submit my will? Why is sacrifice required? He wants the degree without going to class, the power without the cost. He refuses to submit to the covenant. He wants to keep his autonomy but gain their power. But the firstborn Jehovah steps forward and he accepts. He's willing to submit, willing to be the vessel for this incredible transfer of cosmic experience. He accepts the role. And this, of course, kicks off the war in heaven. But before we get to the war, there's this heartbreaking detail about Heavenly Mother. It's one of the most poignant moments in the text. Lucifer is her child, and she is absolutely devastated. The text says she is so grieved by the wickedness of her child that she actually withdraws from the council. It uses that to explain why she's less visible from that point on. It says her grief is so profound that she steps back from the general administration of the plan. She focuses on ordaining women, on those who will be mothers, but her public role diminishes. Her silence is framed as sorrow, not absence. That adds so much depth. So the war happens, Michael leads the faithful, Lucifer is cast down, but where is he cast to? He's cast down into the new earth. Wait, our earth? The very world that was being made for this new plan. Lucifer and his followers are bound there. They're essentially trapped on the physical plane of this new world. So we're moving into a house where the angry former tenant is already squatting in the basement. He's here before Adam and Eve even arrive. And that leads to the commissioning. The father tells Jehovah and Michael to go down and take the matter unorganized, which is now endowed with power from both of them, and create the world. And this is where the timeline syncs up. They divide the light from the darkness, day one. It connects the prequel directly to the story we know. But now, when you hear day one, you have this massive cosmic backstory. This isn't just a test, it's a rescue mission, a solution to a universal problem of suffering. It completely changes the stakes. It makes Earth feel less like a school and more like a hospital. I think that's the big synthesis here. This narrative reframes creation as a solution for the gods. It's a collaboration between them and this other race of Holy Ghost people, and it makes the gods feel more approachable. They're learning, adapting. They don't have all the answers from the beginning. That's the key takeaway for me, that even an everlasting covenant can be changed. Even gods learn new truths and adapt their plans to reduce suffering. It presents a God who is responsive to pain. It really leaves us with that final thought from the text about the law of restoration, that warning from the Holy Ghost that every action ripples out and comes back magnified. An end so good shouldn't require means so bad. So if that's true, if our actions are constantly rippling out into the cosmos, what does that mean for how we live today? We're not in a bubble. According to this, our harmony or our discord is actually amplifying out into the deep. That's something to chew on, that we're part of a much bigger feedback loop than we ever imagined. Well, that's my presentation on the prequel of prequels, the Book of the High Place, a wild ride through the cosmos before the curtain even rises on the Garden of Eden. It certainly gives you a lot to think about the next time you look up at the night sky. Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep digging.